The Ashford Gala was the event of the season, hosted by CEO Vivian Krause to celebrate her company's record-breaking year. Crystal chandeliers hung above a sea of designer gowns and tailored suits, and among the quiet bustle of catering staff was a waitress named Priya Nair, weaving through the crowd with trays of hors d'oeuvres, careful not to draw attention to herself. Everything was going smoothly until, near midnight, a commotion broke out near the coat check. Vivian Krause's assistant announced in a panic that Vivian's designer handbag, a rare piece worth well over $20,000, containing not just cash and jewelry, but sensitive company documents, had gone missing from the private lounge where she'd left it during a phone call. Security swept the room, and within minutes, suspicion landed squarely on the catering staff, the only people who had reason to move freely in and out of the private areas of the venue. Among them, Priya became an easy target. A guest recalled seeing her walking near the lounge earlier that evening, and that was enough. She was right there, the guest insisted, pointing toward Priya, who stood frozen with a tray still in her hands. I saw her near the door. Vivian Krause approached her directly, her expression a mixture of frustration and disappointment. I need you to empty your bag and pockets. No. Priya complied immediately, her hands trembling not from guilt but from humiliation, as dozens of eyes watched her turn out her small bag in front of the entire ballroom. There was nothing inside but her phone, a few tip receipts, and a granola bar. Security checked the staff area, the kitchen, even the trash bins. The purse was nowhere to be found. Despite the lack of evidence, the damage was already done. The catering company, eager to avoid controversy, quietly pulled Priya from the event before it even ended, telling her not to return until the matter was resolved. Whispers followed her out the door. She left that night, not with the tips she'd earned, but with a reputation stained by an accusation she hadn't earned. Priya went home devastated, replaying the evening over and over. She hadn't taken anything, but she understood how appearances worked. A low-paid waitress accused of stealing from a wealthy CEO fit a story people were eager to believe. She could either accept the shame quietly, or she could find out the truth herself. The next morning, instead of sulking, Priya began piecing together everything she remembered from the night. She recalled that the lounge door had been propped open briefly when catering brought in extra ice for the bar, and that several guests, not just staff, had wandered in and out of that hallway throughout the evening. She also remembered a peculiar detail. One of the guests, a man introduced as a consultant named Grant Ashford, had asked her oddly specific questions earlier that night about which rooms were being used for storage and where the coat check exits led. Priya reached out to a former coworker who still worked events for the same catering company and asked if she could quietly return to the venue the next day under the pretense of retrieving a forgotten uniform jacket. The venue manager, sympathetic to her situation, allowed her a brief visit. While there, Priya noticed the security camera positioned near the lounge. One security head, apparently overlooked because its feed ran to a separate backup system, used only for insurance purposes, not the main monitors checked that night. She convinced the venue manager to review the backup footage together. Sure enough, the recording showed Grant Ashford slipping into the lounge only minutes after Vivian left for her phone call, lingering near the table where the purse sat, before casually walking out only moments before the alarm was raised. Priya wasn't naive enough to think the footage alone would be an easy fix. Men like Grant Ashford often had connections that made accusations disappear. So she devised a simple plan. She asked the venue manager to help her set up a follow-up lost and found inquiry call, inviting all attendees who had been near the lounge, including Grant, to a meeting under the pretense of returning misplaced items from the gala. When Grant arrived, visibly irritated at being summoned, Priya calmly mentioned that the venue's insurance company required a full review of the backup security footage for any incident involving missing property over $10,000. Footage that, she casually noted, conveniently captured the entire lounge hallway that night. Grant's confidence cracked almost instantly. Faced with the reality that the footage existed and could easily be handed over to Vivian Krause and the authorities, he admitted, red-faced and stammering, that he had taken the purse in a moment of financial desperation, intending to pawn the jewelry inside, and had hidden it in his car's trunk, planning to dispose of the incriminating documents separately. When Vivian Krause was informed of what had happened, she was horrified, both at the theft and at how quickly her own team had condemned an innocent employee based on nothing but assumption and prejudice. She personally called Priya to apologize, insisting on a face-to-face meeting rather than a simple phone call. At the follow-up meeting, in front of several of the same executives who had watched Priya empty her bag in humiliation days earlier, Vivian addressed the room directly. "I owe Priya a public apology. We accused an innocent woman because it was easier than looking closer to home. That will never happen again under my company's name." Priya accepted the apology with quiet grace, though the memory of that humiliating night at the gala never fully faded. Vivian, determined to make amends beyond words, offered Priya a permanent position within her company's client relations department. Recognizing the sharp, resourceful mind that had solved a mystery her own security team had overlooked, Priya went on to build a respected career, but she never forgot the lesson that night had taught her. That dignity isn't something granted to you by other people's opinions, but something you hold on to and prove patiently and clearly, even when the whole room has already decided who you are.